That evening, the Harborview Grill in Charleston was a tapestry of warm light and quiet opulence, its tables filled for my parents' 40th wedding anniversary. My name is Eleanor Vance. I'm 34, a financial advisor, and I had just barely slipped through the doors on time. My presence met with a familiar wave of smug glances, as if my arrival was a debt I owed them. The air was thick with champagne and unspoken resentments. Then my father, Richard, stood up, and his voice cut through the gentle hum of conversation like a shard of glass. "You," he said, his eyes finding mine across the crowded room, "are the mistake of my life." The entire restaurant fell into a dead, echoing silence before it shattered into 100 gasps. I didn't flinch. I just let a slow smile spread across my face and said, "Then I suppose this is no longer your concern." I did something they never, ever saw coming. My steps were steady as I walked out. 30 minutes later, my phone began to scream. My parents' voices, choked and broken, begged me to answer. I leaned back in my chair, the night air cool against my skin, and said to the empty room, "I'm just the mistake, remember. If you've ever had to reclaim your power from family, hit that like button and tell me your story in the comments below. Let's build a community of strength together." Seeing my parents, Richard and Carol, beaming at their guests, I felt a decade of memories curdle in my stomach. The favoritism wasn't a secret. It was a household institution that began the day my younger brother, Leo, was born. He was the golden child, the spark. My father built him a magnificent playset in the backyard, a miniature fortress with a slide and 2 swings. I had an old tire hanging from an oak branch. My mother, Carol, would spend hours baking for his friends, decorating cupcakes with their names in perfect sugary script. My birthday parties featured a store-bought cake and a quiet acknowledgement. Neighbors would coo over Leo's latest gadgets, the expensive remote control cars that littered the living room floor. My collection of library books stacked neatly in my room never earned a second glance. "He's just got that star quality," Dad would say, ruffling Leo's hair while I was expected to quietly clear the table. The gap between us widened into a chasm during our high school years. I threw myself into academics, joining the debate club and volunteering at the local animal shelter. The awards I brought home were briefly pinned to the refrigerator before being lost in a shuffle of bills and grocery lists. Leo, meanwhile, discovered a passion for skipping class to play pickup basketball. Dad would rearrange his entire work schedule to sit on the bleachers, cheering louder than anyone. The unfairness became painfully transparent when it was time for college. I spent months buried in applications, hunting down every possible scholarship and grant. I secured a work-study position in the university library to cover the rest. My tuition was my mountain to climb, paid for with long nights waiting tables and exhausting weekend shifts tutoring high schoolers. For Leo, there was no such struggle. He was accepted into a prestigious, out-of-state art school, and my parents wrote the tuition check without a moment's hesitation. "This is an investment in his creative future," Mom explained over a strained breakfast, as if my practical ambitions were somehow less worthy. My own graduation was marked by a quick meal at a drive-thru on the way home. In stark contrast, when Leo decided to drop out of art school after 3 semesters, my parents threw a massive backyard barbecue to celebrate his journey of self-discovery. I started my career in banking in Charleston shortly after, but my independence was short-lived. The family's financial needs became my own. The utility bills started arriving in my email. There was $400 for electricity, a consequence of Dad's new power tool obsession in the garage. Then $200 for the water bill, inflated by Mom's sprawling garden. My grocery runs for them ballooned to over $200 a week, always padded with Leo's expensive organic snacks and imported sodas. The demands were relentless. $150 for Mom's new pottery class, $600 to repair Dad's fishing boat after he hit a dock. In just the first 2 years after I started working, a quick tally on a private spreadsheet showed I had wired them over $25,000. Not once did I receive a thank you. Instead, I earned a new title. During a holiday toast, Dad clinked his glass, winked at the chuckling relatives, and called me our little ATM. Mom's habit of loudly promoting Leo's genius while diminishing my achievements became her favorite pastime. At her bridge club meetings, she'd pass around photos of him from his art school days, declaring, "He's on the verge of creating something revolutionary." My first major promotion at the bank earned a lukewarm, "Oh, that's nice, dear," over the phone. When Leo pitched his first startup idea, Artisan Eats, a gourmet meal kit service, my parents didn't hesitate. They liquidated a stock portfolio and gave him $25,000 for branding, a professional website, and a commercial kitchen lease. I was the one who stayed up for a week straight, for free, building his financial models, creating profit and loss statements, and mapping out a logistics plan. The entire venture imploded in under 6 months, a spectacular failure of zero market research and poor management. The entire $25,000 vanished. But Leo was never to blame. It was a valuable learning experience, Dad announced sagely. Mom spun it as a tale of brave risk-taking to her friends. That's when Leo's direct texts for money began. "L, need $500 for a new website host. Can't lose the branding. I sent it. Sis, $800 for a professional photo shoot. Need new headshots." The money was in his account by morning. Quick one, $1,000 for a social media marketing blast. The family rate, as he called it, was paid without question. Dozens of these requests rolled in, disguised as casual check-ins, but always ending with a plea for cash. The funds covered everything from freelance graphic designers to his monthly gym membership, which he claimed was essential for staying sharp for networking. In the first year after his business failed, I sent him another $15,000. My ATM nickname was now a running joke. I paid for all the family outings. An $1,800 weekend trip to a mountain cabin was documented on Mom's social media with the caption, "Leo's Amazing Adventure Squad." My father's quips at barbecues grew sharper. "Eleanor's funding the fun," he'd say, and the laughter that followed felt like tiny needles against my skin. My spreadsheet total crept up to $35,000. Leo's second attempt at a startup was for a line of bespoke leather goods. My parents scraped together $15,000, and I was pressured into adding another $5,000 for initial inventory. It failed even faster than the first, drowning in quality control issues and customer returns. "Resilience is in his blood," Mom proudly told the neighbors as boxes of defective wallets piled up in their garage. The texts became more frantic. "Hey, need $300 for storage space. Emergency. Save me, sis. $900 for shipping returns. You're the best." Another $12,000 of my money disappeared into his black hole of bad ideas. At Thanksgiving that year, as I passed the mashed potatoes, Dad joked, "The ATM is working overtime." Mom nodded enthusiastically before launching into a grand story about Leo's inevitable comeback. The financial drain became a torrent. His car insurance lapsed. I paid the $700. Mom wanted a spa weekend. I covered the $1,000. Dad needed a new set of golf clubs. I transferred $800. Leo needed to fly to a critical networking conference in Atlanta. The $1,200 flight and hotel went on my card. My spreadsheet showed a horrifying total of $70,000, then $88,000. There were never any repayments, just an endless stream of "You're a lifesaver" texts. The weight of it all was invisible to them, but it was carving a canyon straight through my life, leading me toward an inevitable breaking point. 10 years ago, I had begun to build a life of my own, a world away from theirs. My first day at the Charleston Bank branch was like my first breath of fresh air. My teller station overlooked a small courtyard filled with blooming camellias. The entry-level salary was just enough to afford a tiny one-bedroom apartment near the city market, which I furnished with finds from thrift stores and a sturdy desk for studying at night. I devoured my work, mastering the systems, finding accounting errors that seasoned employees missed. Within 2 years, I was promoted to loan officer, handling $500,000 mortgages. My salary jumped, and I immediately enrolled in courses to become a certified financial planner. My evenings became a blur of spreadsheets and textbooks, fueled by cheap coffee. I passed my exams with the highest scores in my class. 4 years in, I was promoted again, this time to senior analyst, managing branch audits with an income of $80,000. I lived frugally, ate at home, and poured every spare dollar into my retirement accounts and savings. 6 years into my career, I closed on my own home, a 2-bedroom brick condo in the historic district, with granite countertops and a small balcony overlooking the marsh. I put 25% down, all from my own savings. No co-signers, no family help. On closing day, I hung my framed financial certifications on the wall by myself and toasted my reflection with a bottle of champagne. It was a silent, solitary victory. By year 8, I had earned the title of financial manager, leading a team of 5 and overseeing a client portfolio worth over $20 million. My bonuses pushed my compensation well into 6 figures, but from my family, there was only silence. Dad's calls were never to congratulate me. They were to request a quick transfer for some new, unexpected expense. Mom would forward me links to dresses she wanted. This would be perfect for the garden party. Only $120, she'd hint. Visits home were dominated by Leo's latest scheme. "Elle, check out this pitch deck," he'd say, shoving his laptop in my face the moment I walked in the door. When I told them I'd bought my condo, there were no congratulations. The immediate response was, "That's great. Now that you're stable, you can co-sign the lease on Leo's new work van." The demands only escalated. There were emergency funds for a leak in their roof and requests to split the cost of holiday airfare for everyone, always framed as a team effort. I complied, but the resentment was a slow-growing poison. Leo's leather goods business had finally officially crumbled. He was facing lawsuits from suppliers for unpaid invoices. The total loss was over $30,000. Desperate, he cornered me at a family cookout. "Elle, I need a bridge loan. Just $18,000 to restructure." This time, I drafted a formal loan agreement with a 4% interest rate and quarterly payments. He signed it. 2 months later, he needed another $12,000 for legal fees. I added it to the document. Then $9,000 more for a last-ditch pop-up shop. The total he owed me, formally documented, was $42,000. "You're my rock," he emailed me. The payments never came. The stress began to bleed into my work. I was exhausted, sleeping poorly, my nights punctuated by the ping of Venmo requests. I confided in my colleague, Sarah, my closest friend, over lunch one day. "They're bleeding you dry, Eleanor," she warned, her eyes filled with concern. "You need to track every single penny." The true breaking point didn't come from a text or a phone call, but from a simple inbox glitch. A routine family group chat email, one clearly meant only for my father, was accidentally forwarded to me and landed in my spam folder. The subject line was Anniversary Strategy. It was dated 3 months prior. I read it, my heart pounding in my ears. Mom, she's become so controlling with her money. Yes, she pays for things, but she acts like it gives her the right to dictate everything. Dad, she's a burden. At the party, I'm going to make a public statement. Disown her. Leo will inherit her full share. Leo's reply was a single chilling word. Perfect. That clears my debts. No more IOUs. Attached was a draft of my father's speech and a timeline for the post-reveal celebration. Burden. They called me a burden after I had single-handedly propped up their entire lifestyle. I cross-referenced my spreadsheet. I had given them over $150,000 in total support. Their plan was to humiliate me in front of 60 of their friends and family and then redirect my inheritance. A cold, quiet rage began to simmer inside me, but I compartmentalized. I went to work, nailed my client meetings, and my team's metrics hit an all-time high. That evening, Sarah reviewed the email chain, a cup of tea steaming between us. "This is gold, Elle," she said. "This is your evidence." "Not yet," I replied, a new kind of resolve hardening within me. My father's next call came a week later. "Party RSVPs are in. Don't forget to bring your checkbook." I smiled into the phone. Wouldn't miss it for the world. My career was a fortress, my condo was paid down, my emergency fund was overflowing. Their betrayal hadn't broken me, it had just given me a weapon. The anniversary party unfolded like a perfectly staged play, right up until my father stood up to speak. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm, amber glow across the linen-draped tables at the Harborview Grill. 60 guests mingled, their laughter blending with the soft jazz of a live quartet. Waitstaff moved silently through the room with silver trays of oysters and seared scallops. The air smelled of salt marsh and blooming magnolias from the open French doors. Great Aunt Matilda arrived first, her pearls gleaming as she gave my mother air kisses. My cousin Chloe chatted animatedly with her husband David. My mother's book club friends, Janet, Susan, Ellen, and Diane, were clustered near the dessert bar, whispering and giggling. And there was Leo, preening in a slim-fit blazer, taking selfies with our uncles. Toasts were made to 40 years of unbreakable love, to the next chapter. The praise was thick and cloying. Then my father rose, tapping the microphone. A spotlight found him, casting his face in shadow. The room fell silent. "Friends, family," he began, his voice steady. "Carol and I cherish this night, but there's something that needs to be said." He paused, his gaze sweeping the room before it locked onto me. My fingers tightened around my wine glass. "Eleanor," he said, his voice dropping to a cold, hard tone, "you're the mistake of my life." The sound in the room was sucked into a vacuum. 60 faces froze. Aunt Matilda's hand flew to her mouth, her pearls clattering against her teeth. Chloe's glass of wine halted mid-sip. My mother's book club stared, their smiles frozen and grotesque. Leo's shoulders hunched, his face turning pale. For a full 10 seconds, nobody moved. Then, the dam broke. A roar of layered gasps. "Richard!" my mother shrieked, her chair scraping violently against the floor. "Heavens, what are you saying?" Aunt Matilda cried out. "This can't be real," Chloe whispered, horrified. The book club splintered. "Disgraceful," Janet muttered. Ellen was openly sobbing. Uncles were pounding their fists on the tables. Phones were out, cameras flashing, capturing the beautiful, perfect chaos. I rose from my chair, slowly. I let a calm, unwavering smile curve my lips. My eyes met my father's, and his triumphant expression faltered. "Then I suppose," I said, my voice clear and carrying across the silent room, "this is no longer your concern." What followed was not a plea or a scene, just my deliberate footsteps. My mother staggered towards me, her eyes bulging. "Eleanor, no, wait!" She was a frozen statue, her hands clawing at the air. Leo, his face ashen, muttered, "Elle, you're joking, right?" The guests parted for me like the Red Sea. I could feel their eyes on my back, a mixture of pity and morbid curiosity. Chloe called my name, but I didn't turn. As I reached the French doors, the cool river air hit my face. Behind me, the pandemonium peaked. Sobs, arguments, the crash of silverware. I didn't look back. The party script was shattered. 40 years of a facade, all in ruins. I straightened my shoulders, the free air filling my lungs. The curtain had come down on their perfect play. 30 minutes later, the city lights were a blur as I pulled into my condo's garage. I walked into my quiet, pristine kitchen and fired up my laptop. The screen glowed, 10:32 p.m. I opened the dashboard for the joint family accounts, a web of financial strings I was about to sever. First, the mortgage on their 2-story colonial. I canceled the $2,200 monthly auto payment. A confirmation pinged. Payment stopped. Balance due immediately. Next, the shared credit line, which they had maxed out at $8,000. I froze the account and drafted an automated alert to their inboxes. Access revoked. Then came the vacation condo contract, an annual $16,000 lease I covered for their beachfront getaway. Terminated. Contract voided. No refunds. I even unlinked their access to my streaming bundle. I exported all the statements to an encrypted drive, and then I logged out. My phone began to vibrate, a frantic, desperate barrage. My mother's face lit up the screen. Eleanor. The house lights just flickered off. The bill. It didn't go through. Honey, please, fix it. In the background, I could hear shouting. My father snatched the phone. Unlock the credit card. We're stranded at a gas station. The card was declined. We have a family. You can't do this. Leo sent a text. Sis, my website is down. The server payment failed. You're destroying my business. I ignored it all. Sarah's call cut through the noise around 11:30 p.m. Are you okay? I heard from Chloe. The party, it imploded. I took a deep breath. Actions have been taken, I said. She was quiet for a moment. Good, she said. But listen, I have something for you. I overheard your mom on speakerphone at the salon a couple months ago. She was telling Janet that you were a money controller who bossed them around. Your dad laughed and said he was going to disown you at the anniversary and hand everything to Leo. They've been calling you a parasite behind your back all summer. She forwarded me the audio clip. My mother's tinny voice complained. She grips every dollar so tightly. My fist clenched. It just adds to the proof, I said. The consequences were cascading in real time. Leo's website had crashed mid-launch. His investors were emailing, pausing all future funding. My parents, unable to pay for gas, had to scrape together cash for an Uber home, only to find the power shut off. The owner of the vacation condo sent a notification to the entire family mailing list that their booking had been canceled. My mother's voicemails became a string of whimpers. It's dark, Eleanor. Please help your father. The bank just sent a foreclosure notice. Leo even tried to do a live stream, claiming his site had been hacked and begging for donations. The comments were brutal. Pay your bills, bro. Get a real job. I muted all notifications and brewed a cup of chamomile tea. My spreadsheet was finalized. A lifetime drain of $188,000, and now 0 outflow. 1 week later, the family war went public. My father sent a blast email to 112 relatives with the subject line, Eleanor's betrayal exposed. The body of the email was a torrent of vitriol. Our daughter has become a greedy monster who stole our security out of spite. She has hoarded her wealth while we struggled. Do not trust her lies. My mother co-signed it, heartbroken by her greed. Please spread the word. The backlash was immediate, but not in the way they expected. My cousin Chloe responded with a post on her popular Charleston lifestyle blog. The title was The Golden Boy, the ATM, How My Aunt and Uncle Drained My Cousin Dry. She posted screenshots of my transfer logs, showing over $70,000 in documented aid over a decade, juxtaposed with my parents' vacation photos that my money had paid for. The post got 100,000 views by midnight after the local news station retweeted it. The comments were a tidal wave of support for me. Predatory parents, AF. Cut all toxic ties, Queen. Leo's digital world, meanwhile, was turning to dust. His social media accounts were suspended for unpaid ad fees. His website domain lapsed. His co-founder quit, telling him, I can't operate a ghost site. He was reduced to posting from a library computer, begging for donations that never came. On Thursday, a certified letter arrived at their house. It was a formal foreclosure notice. The property would be auctioned in 30 days. My father tore it open, his face draining of all color. My mother began to hyperventilate. Our home, she sobbed. It's gone. Their social standing evaporated. Janet sent a text to my mother. I'm stepping back from the book club. There's just too much drama, Carol. I fear it will taint my reputation. She then blocked her number. The rest of the club followed suit. The family split into 2 clear camps. Aunt Matilda emailed my father. "Your words were poison. You've lost her and you've lost my respect." She then hosted a truth dinner for 15 relatives where they toasted my resilience. The final damning piece of evidence came from Great Aunt Matilda. Rattled by the public revelations, she had a nagging memory about my grandfather's estate. With the help of Chloe's husband, David, a paralegal, she uncovered a massive fraud. Years ago, my parents had forged my grandfather Harold's signature on a loan document, taking out $62,000 against his estate. They told everyone it was for estate taxes. The bank trail showed the funds were diverted: $29,100 for Leo's first car, $18,500 for a memorial fund that was actually a deposit on a cruise, and the rest siphoned off for their living expenses. It was clean, irrefutable embezzlement. David compiled it all into a neat PDF, complete with expert analysis of the forged signature. "Use it," he told me. I submitted the entire package to my bank's internal fraud unit and forwarded it to the district attorney's office. An official investigation was launched. Their accounts were frozen. Their house was repossessed. My father was fired from his consulting job for using company property to send his smear campaign. The pressure peaked. Leo, facing lawsuits and with his reputation in tatters, sold what little he had and bought a one-way bus ticket to Austin. He vanished without a goodbye. A month later, I stood in Aunt Matilda's sun-drenched living room. 18 relatives were gathered, a quiet council of support. In my hand, I held a crisp legal document. "This is a letter of severance," I announced. I passed the pages around. It was a formal legal disownment, severing all financial and familial ties, effective immediately. One by one, they signed as witnesses. "Long overdue," Stacy said, her signature firm. "Justice served," David added. When the final notary stamp hit the page, a wave of relief washed over the room. My life, unburdened, began to unfold. I was promoted to senior portfolio director at work. My morning started with coffee on my balcony listening to the riverbirds. I joined a new book club with Sarah. The recovered $91,600 from my grandfather's estate was used to launch the Legacy Boundaries Foundation, a charity providing grants for women escaping financially abusive situations. The remaining funds were distributed among the relatives who stood by the truth. Aunt Matilda restored her garden. Chloe paid down her law school loans. My phone is quiet now. My nest egg is secure. My heart is at peace. And I am surrounded by a family of my own choosing. Severing those ties wasn't an act of cruelty. It was an act of survival. I drove home with the windows down, the cleansing wind in my hair. I had reclaimed my life, and I had no regrets.